What's up guys, it's Red Jewel, and today I'm going to be bringing you guys a Draw My Life, but before I start that, I want to tell you guys that I'm doing a giveaway for an Elgato, so if you want to enter into that, there's a link in the description. It's called a Gleam link, and basically it's really easy. All you have to do is follow the links. It's either to subscribe to my channel, or follow my Twitter, or follow Elgato. It's really easy, so if you want to do that, you can pause the video and click the link in the description and enter in. It would be really cool if you won, so you might as well do it. So, we're gonna get right into the video. I've always been afraid of making one of these videos, so go easy on me, guys. I was born in the Sunshine State on October 25th, 1995, and if you don't know what the Sunshine State is, it's Florida. I was born into a happy family, my mom, my dad, and my big brother. And my mom says I was her best and easiest child. She said I hardly ever really cried. At just the age of 1, we moved to Georgia because my dad got stationed there, so I wasn't really in Florida that very long, but I did get to experience a different state, so that's kind of cool. Growing up, I went everywhere with my dad. My dad and I were really close. I listened to all of his 80s rock, I loved fishing, and I loved getting really muddy. Apparently my mom said I would come home really dirty all the time, every time I went out with my dad, just covered in mud because I loved it that much. At about 4 years old, my sister was born, and my brother and I were not happy. When my mom told me that she was pregnant, I actually ran away with my brother. That was quite an experience. I actually have a video about it on my YouTube, but yeah, we ran away because we did not want a little sister. Since my mom was pregnant again, we moved back to Florida because she wanted to be closer to her family. She thought it would be a lot easier raising 3 little kids with her family rather than, just all alone. I don't remember a lot from being about 4 years old, but I do remember going to preschool, and I got in a lot of trouble for wanting to use the boys' bathroom. I don't even remember why I wanted to use the boys' bathroom, but I do remember going in there and then getting caught. I don't know why I did that. At nearly 5 years old, my parents got a new house. It was really big and it was really beautiful, but just because we had a really nice house and we were doing financially well, my parents weren't doing well. I remember I started to realize a lot with my parents. They argued so much, and I remember waking up in the middle of the night, and even as a kid I knew I didn't want them together. They just were too toxic for each other. They just would argue about anything and everything, and even in my 5-year-old brain I was just thinking to myself, why are these two together? Even though my parents had a lot of issues, they stayed together for a little while longer. And while that happened, my grandfather died, and that was my mom's dad. And to my mom, that was her hero, that was her everything. She loved my grandfather so much, and she was really devastated. At around 6 years old, my mom decided that my dad and her weren't working, so she took my brother, my sister, and I, and got a really cute, lovely apartment. During that time, we were doing really well. Things were fine, and we really liked the apartment. It was beautiful, and it was homey, and we still got to see my dad every other weekend. This is when things get a little confusing, so let me just start it from here. I have a cousin, and my cousin had a mother who died at 3 years old, and she didn't know her dad. So at 3 years old, my grandpa and my grandma took in my cousin. So when my grandpa died, my grandma wasn't fit to take care of her because she has cerebellum disease. Cerebellum disease basically makes it so that the brain doesn't function well with the body, so that that person cannot move very well. They can't, walk around like a normal person. They shake. Their motor skills aren't, perfect. So my cousin moved in with us. Due to the loss of my grandfather, my cousin got on kind of a shaky wagon, and she was kind of wild, and she ended up throwing a party when my mom wasn't home, and it was kind of crazy enough to get us evicted from the apartment. So then we all had to move in with my grandma. When my grandfather died, he left $300,000 to my grandma, so my grandma basically had a lot of money, so she ended up buying her own home. The home had 3 bedrooms, one for my grandma, one for my cousin, and one for us. This is where things really turned around for us, and it was just all around bad. Since it was 4 people to 1 bedroom, we had to share 2 beds, so my sister and I shared a bed, and then my brother and my mom shared a bed. And they weren't big beds, they were twin beds, so it was pretty uncomfortable. We had no TV, we had no games, and we had no toys. So it wasn't very fun for us. My grandma didn't allow us to watch her TV. We weren't allowed outside of the room, and we weren't allowed to eat her food. She also hid the food from us. I would go into her bathroom, and I would find food in the cabinets, Cheez-Its, snacks, cereal, anything, just to keep it away from us. My mom at the time was struggling, which is why we were living there too. We couldn't afford to get our own place, so this was what we had to live with. I remember this one time we were really, really hungry, and my mom was at work, so my brother snuck into the kitchen, and he found a chicken broth. And if you guys have ever seen chicken broth, the picture on it looks like it's like this big meal, but really inside of it is just broth to, season the chicken. So he showed it to us, and we were all really excited because we were really, really hungry. And I remember how disappointed we were when we opened it up and it was just broth. That was a pretty distinctive moment. I remember being so hungry and we weren't allowed to eat our food, so we had to try and steal chicken broth. That's how just greedy the situation was. My brother ended up moving out and living with my dad, so it made it a little bit easier on my mom, so it was just my sister and I with her. During that time, we didn't really see my dad much, and we were pretty sad. We didn't have any friends, and the only family we had really was them. And, it didn't really feel like they were much family to us, so we felt kind of alone. My mom was working, but she wasn't making enough to get her own place. But through that year, my mom was still someone I still saw as a hero. She was doing everything she could. Even though we didn't have a lot and we were pretty sad, we still were close as a family, so that was okay. I remember that big house that we owned when I was 5 years old, and it was really nice, and that was when my parents were together. Well, we still had that house. We just weren't living in it because we couldn't afford it, and it wasn't selling, so we decided to go back to the home and fix it up because it was in foreclosure. If you don't know what foreclosure is, it means basically that the bank is going to take your home because you can't afford to pay the mortgage, and if you can sell it in time, then you're lucky and it doesn't end up making you go into debt. But if you can't sell it in time, then it's a big, big deal. So my mom, the hardworking woman that she was, went outside of that house every single day and fixed it up, fixed the yard, painted. She did everything that she could to sell that house. And just right before the bank was going to take the house, we luckily sold it. Since we sold the home, we had enough money to get our own place. And this was one of the best years of my life. I loved school, and the kids that went to the school, they weren't rich like the other kids that I went to school with, so I didn't feel uncomfortable around them. I felt like I could be myself, and I didn't feel like I needed to fit in. This was when I started playing RuneScape, and I still went outside. I just did so many things. I played RuneScape, I played outside, I went to after school, I had so many friends. Life was really, really good for me. The only downside to this was visiting my dad. You see, my dad has struggled with alcohol his whole life, besides my very young age when we were close. When I went to his house on the weekends, I was never happy. Not that I didn't like him, but I didn't feel safe. He was drunk, which left me taking care of my younger sister. And this left me very angry at him. I was stressed out at such a young age, and it just left me not wanting to be there and not want to be around him. And honestly, I was so angry at him, and I resented him so, so much. So, I was so happy that I was away from my grandma and my cousin, even though to this day my cousin and I are close and I don't blame her for anything that happened. But we got a phone call from my grandma, and she was crying on the phone, and she was telling my mom that my cousin maxed out all the credit cards and that she couldn't afford her house anymore. And my mom, having the huge heart that she has, she decided to take them in. At first, it wasn't too bad. My grandma didn't get to really set the rules since it wasn't her house. We were allowed to eat, we were allowed to watch TV, and we could leave our room without sneaking out. But it was just a little crowded because there were so many people to one house, so it didn't really feel like our home anymore. At around 10 and a half, we moved to a different house, and this house wasn't under my mom's name, it was under my grandma's name. She still had some cash, so she was able to get a home, so she got a big enough house for all of us to live in. Everyone had a room except for my mom, and my mom always gave up anything for her kids, so that's why she didn't have one. Since we were under grandma's roof again, we couldn't watch her TV, we couldn't use her dishes, we also couldn't put our dishes in the kitchen, and we weren't allowed to decorate. Since we moved, my mom had to get a different job, and at this point I had literally no clothes and I was going to a different school. And I remember the kids saying to me, "Didn't you wear those pants yesterday?" Because I would wear the same pants all the time, and I would lie and tell them that I just owned multiple pairs of the same pants. Lucky for me, I made a lot of friends there, and I would go outside all the time, so I kept my mind off of bad things. So during this time, I basically turned to friends to get my mind off of things, and my brother and my sister turned to video games to get their mind off of things. It worked out. So some time goes by and we finally get away from my grandma again. We moved to an apartment and it was really nice just to be us again. Just my mom, my brother, my sister, and I. It felt good. We were very happy once again, and even though our house was empty with little to no furniture because we couldn't afford it, we had each other and that was really all that mattered. As long as we were away from the toxicness, everything was okay and everything was gonna be okay. This girl who lived across the street knew that we were kind of poor, so she would take food and put it on a stick and actually stick it outside of our house to rub it in our face. During Christmas time, her mom said right in front of my face, all she got for Christmas was a phone. Her kids got loads, but I was happy to have a phone, so I wasn't really offended. I was just kind of surprised that her own mom would judge that. After being there for about 6 months, we got another phone call from my grandma. And what do you know? They couldn't afford to live there. So you know what my mom did? She took them in, because like always, she had a huge heart. The apartment was too small for all of us, so we moved back to the house we came from in hopes that maybe things would be different now, because my grandma had no credit cards and no cash, so really, what power did she have to just hold it against us? We lived this way for about 2 years, and my mom still didn't have a bedroom. She would either sleep in my sister's room or she would sleep on the couch. And during this time was the first time I ever tried Xbox. At first, the whole Xbox thing started as a joke. My friend and I would go into my brother's room and we would get on the headset and we'd play Halo and we'd just talk loads of shit to the people on the microphone because we thought it was funny to hear them rage and get mad. Because I would just say, haha, girl killed you, and some cringy stuff, but it was hilarious to hear their reactions. I started to tell the kids at school that I played Halo, and they all told me to try COD. Coming from a family who only played Halo and talked so low on COD, I really didn't think this was a bright decision. I mean, my mom, my brother, and my sister all would talk about how shitty Call of Duty was. So I was kind of iffy on the whole thing, but I was like, hey, okay, I'll try it. The first map I played was Wasteland on Ground War, so you can just imagine how much I really enjoyed it. Not. I hated the noob tubes, and I raged even at that point. I was like, nope, I'm never playing this again. I hate that game, and I'm going right back to Halo. About a month goes by, and my friends convinced me to play Call of Duty again. So I tried S&D on Modern Warfare 2, and I actually loved it. I was hooked, and I could not get enough of it. I remember going to school and bragging about my fall camo and everyone being like, what the fuck? How'd you do that? You must be using mods. But of course, my nerdy ass didn't. I used my ACR with a ACOG sight. It was the ugliest thing ever, but it was my favorite class. During this time, my friends would quickscope, and I thought it was the dumbest idea ever. I would talk so much crap to them about how pointless it was. I played COD as much as I could. I mean, it was my brother's Xbox, so if he wasn't playing, I would get on, but, you know, it wasn't very easy. But I did play a lot for someone who was using someone else's Xbox. So since we were still living with my grandmother, it was still a little But then my mom told me she got a new job, and the new job was in another city, and I was just so excited because it was a new time, it was a new life, and I got to start high school somewhere else, and it was just amazing news. I was so happy, and again, we were gonna go live by ourselves again, just me, my brother, my sister, and my mom, and it was gonna be amazing. The house that we moved into was the house that I made my first setup video in, so if you want to go back and look at that, that was the house. Again, we had little to no furniture, but we were happy. We didn't care, we were just glad to start over, and besides, what did I care? I was just gonna borrow my brother and my sister's Xboxes so I could play Call of Duty all day. The only downside to this whole move was the school system. They had so many issues with the bus system, and my mom couldn't drive us to school and go to her new job, so we had to enroll in online school, which meant I had more time to play Call of Duty, so I was okay with it. My brother and my sister were really nice for letting me use their consoles all the time. Since we're on the topic of that house and that time in my life, I want to just admit something. In that setup video, I showed so many Xboxes, and I want to admit that they were mostly all broken. I showed them to impress people and make them think we were doing super well and were rich, even though behind the scenes my mom was struggling to afford beds for us and things were rough, but I just wanted to make people think that things were really good. And then Grandma called again. Grandma at this point couldn't take care of herself and no one would take care of her. She couldn't really clean herself or cook, and she was falling a lot, so we again took her in. This time my cousin didn't tag along. My 15th birthday happened this year, and my mom asked me what I wanted. I asked for an HD PVR, an HD recording device. She tried countless times to get me to want something else, but I was stuck on the device. I wanted so badly to be able to record in good quality. I ended up getting the device, and after a long time of making videos and proving my skill, OpTic Predator and OpTic Midnight talked to Hex about getting me a personal recruitment challenge into OpTic. The challenge ended up working out and I joined OpTic, and during this time I found out you could make money off of YouTube, and I was just like, what? You can do that? And of course, here comes the moving. We moved to another house, and this house was so beautiful, and we were doing really well besides the fact that my mom gave up her room and she had to sleep on the couch again. She gave up her room so my grandma could have a nice, safe, comfortable place so she could go to bed and she could get to the bathroom easier and faster. This was when my channel got partnered and I actually started to make money and got a good PC, a monitor, and slowly started to build my setup. I started school there too. I was no longer homeschooled. It wasn't really my cup of tea. I preferred being online with my friends. It made me feel happier and I just felt better with them. I just felt like we related on so much more than the people I, met in school. After a year of being in this lovely home, things with my grandma weren't good. We couldn't leave my grandma home alone while we all went to school or work. She would try to walk around and it would result in her hurting herself. She would try to use the bathroom by herself and would get feces all over. She would try to cook and almost start a fire. And we couldn't lock her away because that was abuse. So this was when I decided to unfortunately drop out of high school to help take care of my grandma. This is something I've always been afraid of telling people because I didn't want them to judge me that I didn't finish school. But that's the truth. Unfortunately, this was such a huge job that my mom and my uncle and my brother decided it would be best if we all moved in together to take care of my grandma, which resulted in my mom having to quit her job and move to another city. Through all of this commotion, moving didn't really affect me that bad because I was able to still bring my close friends with me, because after all, they were online. So now we're in this new small apartment and it was just so depressing. We were just all stuck in one little small area and my mom had to sleep on the couch again, and it was overall such a bad situation. My mom and her brother often argued over their mom, my grandma. We couldn't afford to put her in a facility and my mom had promised her dad that she would never do that, but my uncle had other ideas in mind. He wanted her gone, so he ended up taking her to the hospital and never went back for her. The hospital ended up putting her in a home pretty quickly. To this day, my mom visits her very often and she just worries about her and feels really bad that she's in a home, but we just weren't able to take care of her. I think she's better off there. I haven't seen her and I think I should go see her, but honestly, I just have a lot of pent-up anger towards her and the whole situation. I know it's wrong, but that's just how I feel. But back to the story. So my brother and my uncle moved out and we got an eviction notice and we had nowhere to go. The only person we had to go to was a family friend who I basically consider family. She's basically my aunt to me. My aunt had a really bad internet connection, so I was unable to upload, play, or stream. The internet was that bad. Even though I couldn't play, there was this guy named David I was talking to at the time who lived really close. I asked my mom if I could go meet him at a theme park, but my mom said she needed my money for the weekend and that I was too young to go meet him. I was 17 at the time, so ultimately it was her decision. I was really mad but I had to respect her wishes. After all, she just wanted me safe. So I just continued to talk to David just with the idea of us seeing each other when I was 18. A couple months go by and my mom, my sister, and I decided to go visit my brother who had his own house. While we're there, my brother asked me if I wanted to move in with him, and I took it in a heartbeat. My mom was very upset because she didn't want me to be away from her, but it was something I had to do, and she knew that. She knew I couldn't upload or move on with anything just living in my aunt's house. So I moved in with him, and I was able to upload and stream again, and my brother never asked for much. He was just happy to have company, and I was happy to have his company, so it worked out really well. I appreciate what he did for me. Time goes by and my mom and my sister end up leaving my aunt's house. They clashed too much and argued with her too much, and so then my sister and her moved in with my brother and I. 4 people in 2 bedrooms was pretty rough, but we had faced worse before. My mom didn't have a job and I wasn't helping enough around the house with bills at that time. Believe it or not, YouTubers aren't really rich. So my brother decided to make a healthy decision and move to Montana, which left my mom, my sister, and I to figure out what we were going to do. At this point, I really stepped up and started paying for a lot of things, bills and food mostly. I won't lie, it was really stressful. I couldn't afford a car, but I was still talking to David, and even though, we didn't see each other, he helped me through a lot, such as with my dad. Like I told you guys before, I had a lot of pent-up anger towards my dad because of his alcohol problem. but at that time, around 18 years old, I ended up dropping all of my anger towards my dad because David helped me get through that. David made me realize that, there was no reason to be mad at my dad. My dad did do what he could, and alcohol abuse isn't easy. My grandma, actually, my other grandma, died from alcohol. She died from it, so I had to realize that even though my dad, he has his issues, my dad still loves me and still means well, and David made me realize that. David made me see it, and now my dad and I have a lot better of a relationship, and I love my dad, and I see things from his eyes and his point of view now. Things continue to be this way, just helping my mom, and all this situation just kept going the way that it was, and I was okay with it, but it came to a point where one day I told my mom I was going to save for a car. I told my mom I wanted to try and save $6,000 to put down on a car, which meant I was going to be budgeting a lot more with food and bills. She agreed and supported my decision. To my surprise, the next day I streamed and received enough donations to get a car the next day. I didn't even mention it. I didn't tell anyone that I wanted a car. No one knew. Maybe it was just meant to be. So I got a car and went to see David, and now we're here. I'm 20 years old and I live with him. My mom and sister still live in the house, and my dad helps a lot with the bills. From where I am, I still try and help them here and there. I know my family is going to watch this video, so to my dad, I want to say that, Dad, I love you, and even though we had a rocky lifestyle and we didn't always get along, I want you to know that I accept you for who you are, and I love you. I will always be here for you, and I'll always support you, and I will always, always, always hope that you get better. And I know that it's an addiction, and I know it's not going to be easy, but I believe in you, and I think you're strong enough to get through it. I really do, and I know Mom, Thomas, and Samantha all think it too. Mom, I think you're strong, I think you're incredible, and I think you can do more than you even believe in yourself. You gave up so much for us, and you showed me how to be strong and how to get through things, and you showed me everything I know, and I love you so, so much, and I'm so proud to call you my mom. I really am. I love you, Mom. I love you so much. Thomas, I'm so proud of you. I think that you've come so far. You have proven so much. You've proven that you can be so low and get so high. Every job you ever take, you get to the top because you're so dedicated and you're so amazing at everything you do. You're so smart, and you can do anything you want. You really can, Thomas. I believe in anything that you want to do. So I love you, Thomas. You are amazing, and you are incredible. You're an incredible person. Samantha, do I even need to tell you how strong of a person you are? Samantha, my sister, you are always yourself, and you're not afraid of what anyone thinks of you, and you're so confident in that way, and I'm so proud of you for finishing school. You've got like 2 more years to go, and you're gonna make it through it, and I'm gonna be so proud of you to watch you finish, and I just think you're amazing, and you're so smart, and you're beautiful, and I love you to death, Samantha. And now for you guys, my supporters, my fans, my viewers, my subscribers, you guys. Where do I even begin? It's funny because you guys make me the most emotional. Okay, you guys made my life. You guys changed my life. Believe it or not, you watching my videos, you being at my streams, you commenting, you saying nice things, your tweets, you guys got me through so much. You made my life so much better. You may not know it, but you changed my life. I'm sure there was so much of this that you had no idea. You didn't know this much about me, and without you guys, I don't know who I'd be. I don't know. It's weird because I think about that. I'm like, wow, like they made my life so much better. There was times when you guys put the food on the table. You guys paid the light bill. You guys did that, not me. I didn't do it. You guys did it. And this isn't even about, helping my family. This is about you guys kept me mentally happy. I didn't have a lot of friends. I didn't go out a lot. And you guys, your comments, you boosted my confidence. You made me feel good. You made me so happy. You guys make me happy. You still do. I'm so thankful. And I'm talking directly to you, whoever is listening. You changed it. If you're new, you're still changing it. You're still making my life. So thank you. Thank you for everything. Thank you. I love you guys. You guys are my family.